What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Pop Culture Mika, and we're back for another Red Cup Talks because when we got the Red Cup, we're about to spill some truth. So I want to thank everybody for watching, and let's start this live stream right. So I called this one the Great Debate because everybody has been waiting on this debate, right? Whether you're for Kamala, Trump, you've been waiting on this debate, right? So cool. All right. So I wanted to really get into some things that kind of pregame before tomorrow's debate, and then come back later and kind of discuss some of it or a lot of it, depending on how it goes. So what I wanted to get into first is just kind of like the throwback of it all, right? So this segment is going to be called Shots. And when we get our new setup in the next 2 weeks, it will be, completely done. But when we get our new setup, we'll have all the theatrics to go with this. But this segment is called Shots, where we're just going to watch like little clips of exactly what we're talking about and kind of get into some things. All right. So I want to get into some clips of Trump's past history and debating, because he's phenomenal at debating. And then I want to get into also a very viral clip of Kamala and a debate. All right, let's go.
Trump, take 30 seconds.
Let me just, he wants to be a tough guy. A lot of times you'll have, and it doesn't work very well with
How tough is it to take property from an elderly woman?
Let me talk. Quiet.
How tough is it?
A lot of times.
Tough business to run for president.
I know, you're a tough guy, Jeb.
And we need to have a leader that is principled.
Tough.
You're never going to be president of the United States by insulting your way to the presidency.
Let's see, I'm at 42 and you're at 3, so far I'm doing better.
Doesn't matter.
So far I'm doing better. You started off over here, Jeb. You're moving over further and further. Pretty soon you're going to be off the end.
Mr. Trump.
I never attacked him on his look, and believe me, there's plenty of subject matter right there. That I can tell you.
It is, it's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
We get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
Trump is diabolical. I swear to goodness, he's diabolical. That whole "you be in jail," right? That was iconic, right? And that is plenty of subject matter. I never talked about his look, and it's plenty of subject matter. Man, look, the man is phenomenal at coming up with these little jabs that go viral, and he's phenomenal at actually making the debates interesting, making you want to watch them. You know what I mean? And he's also a good debater. So Harris is definitely going to have an uphill climb. But speaking of uphill climb, I want to talk about that time she debated Tulsi Gabbard, all right, who's a Democrat. Well, was a Democrat because now she is an independent. But at the time she debated Kamala, she was a Democrat. So I want to get into that.
And that Joe Biden is a racist. What's your response?
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting Black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. That would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way. The bottom line is, Senator Harris, when you are in a position to make a difference and an impact in these people's lives, you did not. And worse yet, in the case of those who were on death row, innocent people, you actually blocked evidence from being revealed that would have freed them until you were forced to do so. There is no excuse for that. And the people who suffered under your reign as prosecutor, you owe them an apology.
Senator Harris.
Man, Tulsi is not to be played with. I really don't know why, the Democratic Party didn't focus on Tulsi, right? But again, I think it's because they wanted someone that they can definitely, and I do mean definitely, control, right? But Tulsi is really good, right? So I just wanted to get into those because Tulsi demolished her at that point, right? Yeah, I don't have nothing else to say about that. So anyway, look. So those were some of the highlights and times from before, but this time it's really going to be different, right? Kamala and Donald Trump are two different types of candidates, and I mean very different. Donald Trump, from my take, is the type of candidate that you can go and you can see the excitement. You can see that he actually believes what he's saying, whether you like it or not, right? He actually believes what he's saying. But when I look at Kamala, I look at a candidate that is just going to say whatever is going to help for her to win. Like how can she get little sound bites, right? And now she can't get the sound bites because unfortunately for her, ABC said, "Hey, the mics are going to be muted." Right, so she can't get those little sound bites of I'm speaking," and stop the momentum of whatever is being talked about with having those little sound bites, and they were hot about that, and I do mean hot. So what I wanted to start with is some key issues that's going to be important in this debate, right? It's going to be the economy. It's going to be housing. It's going to be the migrant crisis or illegal immigration as what it is, right? Those are what the Americans are really focusing on right now. So those are the key issues. But I want to start with where we are right now. And where we are right now is it's a tight race. They like to talk about Kamala being energized and, being ready, but it's a tight race. Kamala is not like blowing this out the water. The Democrats really thought, that honeymoon phase was going to like propel her, but it's not, right? So we're going to get into CNN here talking about the polls, and this is brand new. So let's get into that.
So the big debate tomorrow night is in the city of Philadelphia, which is in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Now, in a previous episode of CNN News Central, I circled Pennsylvania many, many times to emphasize just how important it could be in the election. Watching from home when I was doing that was CNN's senior data reporter, Harry Etten, who is standing right here to kind of put some meat on the bones, right, and do a better job than I did of just circling Pennsylvania.
I'm going to be additive. I couldn't do a better job. I'm just going to make the product you've made even better. So I just want to take a look at Pennsylvania, and what we see is a tightening race in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. All right, this is Harris versus Trump margin in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. A month ago, when you looked at the polls, New York Times +4 Harris, +3 Quinnipiac for Harris, Franklin and Marshall +3 for Harris. But look at polls that have come out over the last week or so, and what do we see? We see a much tighter race. We see a tie in the CBS YouGov poll. We see a tie in the CNN SSRS poll. And this, to me, is part of an emerging pattern, which is in a very pivotal state. What we saw was a small Harris lead, but within the margin of error, becoming a race that is way, way, way too close to call at this particular point, one that is even.
You say very pivotal the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania could be. How pivotal?
How pivotal. All right, so let's take a look at this particular map. This is with the betting favorites, but with Kamala Harris taking the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania over here. What do we see? We see that Kamala Harris wins in this particular case. Look at that, with exactly 270 electoral votes to Donald Trump's 268. All right, so Kamala Harris wins the Electoral College when she wins the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. But let's take Pennsylvania out of Kamala Harris's column and put them in a Donald Trump's column. Again, with the betting favorites, with Trump taking Pennsylvania. What happens when we turn Pennsylvania red? Well, take a look here. Donald Trump wins in the Electoral College, 287 electoral votes to Kamala Harris's 251 electoral votes. So that is why I say
And I want to say real quick that I thought Kamala really made a big mistake by not getting the Governor Josh of Pennsylvania, right? Like he's very popular among liberals in the Democratic Party. And I thought she really should have picked him because Pennsylvania would have been in a bag. But now I really do think it's up for grabs. And look at that. Look at that. It's what, 287? So 287. Come on. Trump can win this, right? I do know like some of the smaller cities are, have more of the votes, but I think Trump can win this. So I think she messed up right there.
Hey, it is pivotal. Yeah.
It is so important. It's worth adding letters. I will say
it's worth adding letters. I can't even get it out. The bottom line is, it is so important. This state is very, very important.
You important data people like to call it a tipping point state. It looks like Pennsylvania could be the tipping point state, which means the one state that will decide the election. Now, if it is in fact the tipping point state, is there any elected official in Pennsylvania who may have been on a ticket that might have made a difference?
Well, this was the great question when Kamala Harris was making her VP selection. Who should she select? And of course, folks like myself thought that she should take Josh Shapiro, of course, as the governor of the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Why? Because his approval rating is 59%. And the bottom line is, if Kamala Harris loses in the state of Pennsylvania, and that is the tipping point state, as Mr. Berman put it, the state that put Donald Trump over the top in the Electoral College, there are going to be some real questions as to whether Kamala Harris should have chosen Josh Shapiro, given how popular he is in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Could she have been a winner if she had chosen him instead of Tim Walz? We don't know the answer to that question. We don't know who's going to win the state of Pennsylvania, but it's certainly a question that at this particular moment, with the Pennsylvania polls getting tighter and tighter and tighter, that I'm certainly asking, John.
Harry, great to see you, as
Pivotal.
always. Pivotal.
Look, I definitely do think it's going to be pivotal. Here's the thing. Why wouldn't you pick someone from the state that you really need to win? And I mean, to me, he's a better pick than Tim. Like he's just a better pick. And I really don't understand. Like, I really don't understand why Kamala went with him. Like, it's just, I don't know. Like, excuse me. It's just like she wanted to maybe shore up the far left. I don't know. Because she is already left leaning. So it didn't make any sense to me why she would do that. So I don't know. You guys let me know what you think. But, I see the polls and I'm just like, yeah, Kamala, she got to watch it. And, what happened the other day is, if you guys don't know, RFK was taken off the ballots in Michigan and some other states. And Michigan, I guess they had I'm sorry, not Michigan. I think it was North Carolina. I got to look that up. But I was glancing at it on a short. And it's coming down to the fact that the Democrats fought so hard against RFK, right, to get him off of the ballot. And now that he's dropped out of the race, he didn't want to have his, supporters that also support Trump, interfere. So he asked to be taken off the ballot and the judge granted it. And now they're upset, right? They're definitely upset because in their eyes, this helps Donald Trump. And so with all that being said, now they can't do any of this early voting, right, that they were going to do. And it's funny that we even have voting that far out. The election isn't until November. This is far out. What if you change your mind? We hadn't had a debate yet. So what if you had changed your mind? So now this puts the places that were going to vote, right, ahead of the debate. This puts them after the debate. So whatever little, momentum she might have had, is now questionable, because if she doesn't do well in this performance, those voters may not want to vote for her, right? So if they don't want to vote for her, then what she would have had is gone. So it begs to differ, like, if that was their little plan, to kind of do that. Maybe that's why they didn't want to do the September 4th debate. It's a strategy. But anywho, so those are the polls. I want to move on to another topic, and that's looking at Harris's strategy, right? So Harris, again, has a different type of strategy, and she has to do a different type of strategy, because if not, how is she going to beat Donald Trump? Right? That, like, she's in no comparison to Donald Trump. So she has a strategy that she wants to do but can't do because of the mic. So we're gonna see what the pundits and the media, the mainstream media, and especially the media that likes her, thinks. All right, and we're gonna take a look at that, and then come back and talk about that. So let's go ahead and get that going. Here we go.
Days, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump will take the stage in Philadelphia. And the new CNN poll of polls out this morning shows that their first and perhaps only presidential debate could not be more consequential. The race between Harris and Trump is neck and neck with no clear leader. And while a new poll shows Harris outpacing Trump with women, younger people, and Black and Latino likely voters, Trump maintains strong support among men and older likely voters. Harris is already in Pennsylvania in formal debate prep, facing off against a stand-in playing Trump, while Trump's preparations are, as always, more informal. His advisors hope he will stay on.
That always more informal. Like, it's always, and that is the problem I have. It's always shots thrown, right? But if he does it, or anybody connected to Trump does it, it's this is disrespectful to women. This is disrespectful to her. This is disrespectful to Black women. Like, stop it already. Like, if you're not gonna do none of this during that interview that you did, ma'am, let it go.
On message against Harris, who may try to needle him, but Harris also will look to answer voters' questions about her policies. Here with me now is someone who has debated Kamala Harris on stage, 2020 presidential candidate for the Democratic primary back then, Pete Buttigieg. Thank you so much for being here. So there is a new New York Times poll out this morning, and it says 28% of likely voters said they still need to learn more about Harris. Only 9% say that about Trump. What does she need to do at the debate to fill in those blanks?
Well, I think the main task will be to make sure Americans understand the difference in visions and are reminded that they already agree with her on the issues that matter most to them. But that's going to be challenging. I competed with her for the Democratic nomination, and I had the honor of being involved in her debate preparations against Mike Pence. She is a very focused and disciplined leader, but it will take almost superhuman focus and discipline to deal with Donald Trump in a debate. It's no ordinary proposition. Is a master of explaining policy ideas and how they're going to make people better off. It's because he's a master of taking any form or format that is on television and turning it into a show that is all about him. But the less we're talking about him and the more we're talking about you, the better it's going to be for the vice president, because she has laid out an agenda. Things like making sure that our tax code is fair and protecting a woman's right to choose. That is, of course, the opposite of Donald Trump's agenda, which has been around tax cuts for the wealthy and his record of destroying the right to choose. It's, again, an extremely challenging task in the face of all of the distraction, whatever outrageous things he does and says, because they will require a response, and yet you can't allow him to change the subject from.
Her response will be heard because the mics will be muted. So we're going to hear everything she says. They be gaslighting for this woman. It's just like, you almost can't even get in, you can't even dig into Trump because they be doing so much gaslighting that he stays, he's always having to defend a position. Like, if y'all would just let the man, if you want people to criticize him, let the man mess up. Y'all don't let him mess up. Y'all jump on the smallest thing and then you're like, oh, look at this, look at that, look at that. That's why most people are jumping ship, because they're starting to see that he's not even doing anything and y'all are jumping on it. Like, Pete, come on.
The difference between his very unpopular set of policies and record and her vision for Americans' future.
I want to get to a couple of issues that are almost certain to come up, but you just mentioned that you were debating her and that you learned from that. What did you learn? What should we expect that you experienced as somebody who was jousting with her?
Well, I think about intellect and focus. She's somebody who is extremely smart about getting to the core of an issue. That's what made her so effective as a DA, as a prosecutor, then as Attorney General, and of course, as Vice President. And one of the things I remember from those debate preparations when I was involved supporting her team 4 years ago was anytime some issue area or topic came up, we were kicking around statistics, ideas, arguments. She'd always take it back to the question of, okay, how is this going to affect somebody at home? And I think that's especially important right now with some of the issues at stake right now. For example, the Trump economic plan, economists estimate that will cost about $3,900 for a typical American family going forward and really supercharge inflation. But it's not going to be about getting into the niceties of economic modeling. It's going to be bringing that to the kitchen table and why people in their everyday lives will be so much better off with her in charge, growing small business, delivering a fair tax code, importantly, getting us a way forward on childcare affordability. She has a plan for expanding the child tax credit, making sure that we have paid family leave in this country. Two things we would have right now.
You better thank a union worker for paid leave. You better thank a union worker for time off.
Republicans weren't blocking them. And as we saw when Donald Trump was asked about childcare the other day, it wasn't clear whether he even understood the question.
I want to ask about Afghanistan, which is...
The shots be killing me because y'all don't like when people say that Kamala is not smart and can't do an English sentence, can't complete an English sentence like JFK said. But JFK. RFK, like he said, and y'all get mad at that, but y'all stay taking shots at Trump's intellect. Like, the man is a billionaire. You can't be dumb and be a billionaire. Like, you can't. Even if I don't like the billionaire, right? And I like Donald. But even if I didn't, the man is a billionaire. He's not dumb. Sheesh.
Almost certain to come up in this debate, and in particular, the chaotic withdrawal under the Biden administration from Afghanistan that left 13 service members dead. In 2021, the vice president told me that she was the last person in the room on that decision, and she was comfortable with the outcome. I want to make clear that was before the actual withdrawal happened, just after the decision was made. Tomorrow, we expect the House Foreign Affairs Committee to release the findings of its 3-year investigation into what happened. How does Kamala Harris defend what we all saw?
First of all, of course, I haven't seen what's in the report coming out tomorrow, but I do have a question about what they're doing over there. If they've had 3 years to assess what happened, why are they delivering a report after Labor Day in a presidential election year? I think it really feeds into a sense that this is something they're using as a political football.
Nice pivot, Pete. That was a good pivot. That was a good pivot, because I wouldn't have thought about that. I mean, yeah. I mean, they can use it, but I mean, it still doesn't take away from what Kamala said was okay to do, and she's the last one in the room, right? So yeah, this is hers. This is her record.
Look, this administration made the decision not to allow this war to be inherited by a fifth president and to end that conflict. And this is on my mind a lot in September, not just because of the anniversary of the withdrawal, but because it was September 10 years ago that I left Afghanistan. And when I left, again, 10 years ago, 2014, they told us we were some of the last troops, that they were turning out the lights, only to find that it passed on to another presidency and another presidency after that. What's, of course, most at stake right now, as is true in any election, is our future and what is going to be the future of American national security.
All right. So you definitely see that, right? And you see what the Democrats are saying and talking about and how they're going to strategize and how she, what's going to come up, about her record, especially as VP, right? Because for the life of me, a lot of people don't know what she's been doing, right? But a little bit of stuff that we do know, that's definitely going to come up. I wanted to bring something up really quick, right? Being that a lot of you will say, hey, y'all don't, when Kamala actually does what she needs to do, you don't highlight it. Well, I'm going to highlight it. All right. So, as you know, I am on Kamala's neck about policies because she doesn't show them. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Kamala has put them up here. I always bring her page up. They're finally here the day before the debate. Good or bad move, depending on what's in here. But I just wanted to be fair, since I'm always criticizing it, that it's there. All right? A new way forward, even though you've been there the last 4 years moving forward. But okay. So what do we got? We got building opportunity, economic lower cost of families, blah, 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 blah. All right. So we got cut taxes for middle class families. It's not like extremely detailed from what I'm reading, but it's something. It's something. It's it's not nothing that she hasn't said on the campaign trail. And the crazy part is she makes it seem like 400,000 a year. 400,000 a year is not rich, especially with inflation. Like, it's not rich. Like, it's not. This is still middle class. Okay, you got upward mobility, but this is still very much middle class. Okay, I know some people making 3 or so, as a couple, married or whatever, and they still very much are struggling. So, but this tax, yeah, I'm gonna move on. Make rent affordable and home ownership attainable. Y'all can see it up on the screen when you want to do playback if you want to stop it, or you go look at it yourself. But yeah, it's pretty much what she talked about already. This 25,000 to help with their down payment, yada yada yada. As we talked about before in one of my videos called housing, I mean, 25K. If you need 25K, you can't afford a house. I'm just telling you that right now. Because more than likely you're gonna have PMI insurance. If you don't know what that is, that's the mortgage insurance that's tacked on top of everything else that goes into your mortgage, or your property taxes and things like that. So I'm just sitting here like, this doesn't really make any sense, because they're just gonna increase the house value of 25. And most builders already give this. So we talked about this before, but yeah, so it's pretty much the same. She's been talking about this lately, this growth for small business. So that might be something. And you know, I could do a deep dive into it later. But they're here. But this is really what I wanted to get into right here, right? Because this is so misleading. Trump's Project 2025 agenda. For the life of me, this lady cannot stop lying. Her and the Democrats, right? Because CNN had to call the Democrats out during the convention because one of the Democrats that spoke said that Trump wrote a book on what he's going to do with the country, and it's called Project 2025. Ma'am, Trump did not write that. Like, I know y'all don't like Trump, but be honest, right? Like, Agenda 2030. Kamala didn't write it. That's out right now. That's happening right now. All that gentrification, that's part of 2030 agenda. By 2030, you will own nothing and you will like it, right? That's why they don't want you parking on the streets. And on top of that, you know, they don't own the streets like in Chicago, but I digress. Yeah, that's already out. So, yeah, she had to throw that in there because this right here is just, yeah, Donald Trump's plan. And she knows that most people are ignorant. They're not going to go read. They're not. And they're going to see this. They're going to be like, oh my God. Because if one more asks me, do you like Donald Trump's plan? It's not Donald Trump's plan. What the? So, yeah. Restore freedoms, protect reproductive, protect civil rights. She's the last one to be talking about somebody's civil rights, child. All right. So yeah, I just wanted to show y'all that, you know, because I'm trying to show you that I am fair. Okay. Do I think Kamala is the best candidate? No. Is that the candidate I'm going to vote for? No. But if she comes up with something or comes out with something, you know, I'm going to show it. And if it's good, I'll say it's good. Right? If it's bad, I'm going to say it's bad. And from what I've been seeing of Kamala, it's been bad. It is what it is. The truth can never be a diss. Okay? Shout out to my girl Milagro. But the truth can never be a diss. So at the end of the day, I'm going to show it. So, you know, like I said, that's Harris's strategy. These are her, you know, her policies, you know. Shout out to Kamala for finally getting them policies up there. All that for a pinpoint. She had that on the vision board for a minute. All right. So, yeah. All right. We're going to move to the next thing. So, the next thing I wanted to focus on is Trump's strategy, right? So, we're sitting here talking about how Kamala has, you know, strategized, you know, how they're getting everything together. Well, Trump is, you know, has been, well, he don't have to like prepare to debate, but he has to be prepared. Because like I said, even though Kamala is not the best debater, you don't want to you never want to underestimate somebody just because they're not, you know, the best at nothing. But I'll say this. I think if Trump sticks to certain points, certain topics that you know, he's definitely gonna end up, you know, mopping the floor with Kamala. But I would say this, like I said, you just wanna stick to the facts. Like when Trump is allowed to be, you know, derailed, he's very humorous and things like that, but it could be taken as other things. So I want him to stick to the facts, still be humorous because we need some entertainment, but stick to the facts. Just stick to the main point. Don't go off. You know, nothing personal. We don't need it because we already know about Kamala's personal stuff. So, I want to get into who is helping Trump. All right. And none other, it's crazy because it's none other than a former Democrat, right? And this is a Democrat, like I said, that I really thought the Democrats dropped the ball on. And that's Miss Tulsi. So Miss Tulsi has been helping Trump. So we're going to get into that. Here we go.
We're counting down to the Harris-Trump debate, and my next guest is a former 2020 Democratic presidential candidate and congresswoman who endorsed Trump this week and is helping him prepare for that debate. Here with me now is former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. Thank you so much for being here. Vice President Harris's campaign manager released a memo this morning saying they expect former President Trump to be a, quote, formidable opponent on the debate stage. Do you think Kamala Harris will be a formidable opponent as well? And how is the former president preparing to debate her?
Yeah, I think Kamala Harris has a lot of experience. She is not to be underestimated. President Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris have very different records. This is a unique situation where we have two candidates who have served at the highest offices in the land. President Trump, 4 years as president, Kamala Harris, now almost 4 years as vice president, working alongside President Biden. And so this will be an opportunity for voters to look at and compare and contrast those records. If I can be helpful to President Trump in any way, it really is just in sharing the experience that I had with her on that debate stage in 2020, and frankly, helping to point out some ways that Kamala Harris has already shown that she is trying to move away from her record, move away from her positions, and how that contradicts the positions and statements that she is making now that she is the Democratic nominee.
And it is a remarkable situation in that you are a Democrat who debated her in a Democratic primary, and now you are helping the Republican nominee to debate her. And on that, I remember in 2020, you attacked Harris for being too aggressive as a prosecutor, which is the opposite from what Donald Trump is saying about her as weak on crime. So which is it?
She's definitely weak on crime. I mean, she wasn't weak on crime, with black people, preferably black men, or she wasn't weak on crime when it came to, truancy, locking single mothers up for their children missing school. She definitely wasn't weak on that, so weed smoke and missing school. No, she's not weak on.
What I pointed out in that debate stage in the 2020 campaign was her hypocrisy. It was how she was saying one thing and doing another, how she was prosecuting people for smoking marijuana and laughing about it when she was asked about it on a radio show. And I think this goes to the heart of many of these different issues that we're seeing now that Kamala Harris is trying to hide from voters, is how she says her position is one thing, but her actions and her record show exactly the opposite. And you can point to that on issues related to the economy, issues related to freedom of speech. She says she stands for freedom of speech. And yet, as we've seen time and time again, her and Joe Biden have taken actions both directly and indirectly to censor free speech. Most recently, I can point to my own experience of this, of how the Harris-Biden administration have added me to a secret domestic terror watch list the very day after Kamala Harris was endorsed by Joe Biden. And I was on TV and warning the American people about what I saw as the dangers of a Kamala Harris presidency, taking action that was clearly political retaliation. They've done this to a lot of different people, which points to how dangerous it is to have people in power so willing to abuse that power to go after political opponents.
Okay, I'm not familiar with the secret terror watch list. We're definitely going to follow up on that. But I do want to move on to what is happening with regard to controversy after the former president visited Arlington National Cemetery this week. His campaign took photos and video of him in Section 60, where veterans of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan are buried, used it in a campaign video.
So, yeah, Miss Gabby is going to help Donald Trump. And that, to me, that shows a lot, right? That shows that even a person that's more liberal still thinks Donald Trump makes better decisions than Kamala Harris. That's telling to me. So, anywho, final shots here. Last call. Look, it's not going to be an easy debate. Not at all. Donald Trump definitely is going to have to come, poised, because they're just looking for anything. When I say they're looking for anything, they're looking for anything. So Donald Trump is definitely going to have to come, poised. He's going to have to come ready. And I think he is ready. And on the flip side, Kamala Harris is definitely going to have to focus on, clarifying her position, right? Because of all the allegations of the flip-flopping that we have seen, So she's going to have to do that. Now that she's posted her policies, those will probably be some of the questions. She's going to have to defend her newly posted policies and basically, what the American people want to know. Because as that new poll that CNN did, says, the American people don't know her. Like, they don't know her. They don't know her. And that's including her base. So she's going to have to, if she wants to defeat Donald Trump in this debate, which I believe will be the only debate, she's going to have to really expound on what she's going to do, how she's going to do it, and not have all that word salad that she normally has. Prices have gone up. No, ma'am. How are you going to fix inflation? What are you going to do about rising home costs? And for the life of me, what are you going to do about illegal immigration? And it's so funny that she had her new campaign ad. It's so funny. Her new campaign ad has Donald Trump's border wall in it. She talks about when she was in California, that she defended the border. And I swear to goodness, the drone footage flies right over Donald Trump's border wall. The border wall that she supposedly doesn't like. You can't make it up. You can't make it up. I swear to goodness, you can't make it up. So you don't like Donald Trump's border wall, but you used it in your campaign because you understand that even to Democrats, this is a big issue, especially in places like California and Chicago, where the governor is in California. The governor's pushing out, homeless people, but bringing in migrants. So he definitely he's a character. But you have that, and then in Chicago, you have migrants getting brand new homes. I'm doing a video on that too. So, watch out for that one. But you have migrants getting new homes when most of America cannot even afford homes. So to me, it's crazy. It's asinine that, they're able to get, a lot of funding. I mean, and they're down there arguing with representatives of citizens talking about why can't this be funded? And I'm like, the nerve. You're here illegally. Like, the nerve. But that's those Democratic cities. And unfortunately, I live right by one. I'm in the DC area. So I know what it's like. I see it all the time. But at the end of the day, this debate is going to come down to who the American people trust, who gives the American people, the best policies, and who the American people think can really lead people, preferably citizens, forward. Okay. So I'm gonna leave it there. It's your girl Mika. Like, comment, and subscribe. As always, I thank you all for watching. If you want to support, here's the way to support. Cash App officially Mika is the best way to support. And again, I thank you all for watching. Again, like, comment, subscribe, leave whatever you want there. It's your girl Mika. I'm out.